Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your host, MongoSlade. So, the title cards is about Andrade. We will talk about Andrade, but I want to go through the entire show instead of doing a video just for Andrade. So, this is from AEW Dynamite, June the 6th, 2021. So, the first match was Young Bucks doing Young Bucks things. Young Bucks defeat Penta and Pac. The Elite Hunter attacked, I believe it was Matt Jackson before the match. Didn't matter though. Young Bucks still win. There was some nonsense in this match, of course. There was a lot of nonsense. There was a spot where Matt Jackson ran all the way around the ring where he was supposed to, jump on Pac from the top rope or something like that. He chose instead to trot around the ring like a show horse and throw a feckless clothesline. And then they did a spot where Pac got suplexed on the ring apron while the other brother, I'm about to call him the Hardy brother, the other Jackson, got power drived on the ring apron. Of course, neither one of them was the finish. They stared each other lovingly in the eyes as they did it. There's nothing better, more cool than watching your brother get dropped on his head on the ring apron, right? Whatever. And ultimately, Cutler ended up tripping Pac from the top rope, or he hit him on the leg or something. And after the match, Eddie Kingston made the save on Pentagon and Pac as they was continuing to get beat up. So later in the show, Penta and Pac went to Eddie Kingston and said that they didn't want his help and didn't ask for it, and that he needs to get out of their business. And so Eddie Kingston says, "Look, the enemy of my enemy is my friend." And basically they're kind of teasing that now Eddie Kingston is going to join Death Triangle. I'm guessing Jon Moxley was so injured by knee strikes that he's no longer going to be present, despite the fact that this guy was blown up and literally was back on Dynamite 4 days later. I don't think he wrestled, but he definitely appeared. But after, the viciousness of those knee strikes that he faced at Double or Nothing, he just can't show his face on Dynamite 5 days later, almost a full week later, 6 days, if my math is correct. This is ridiculous. All this is ridiculous. Come on, bro. So then we get into what everybody wants to talk about. Mark Henry comes in and says some stuff about how he loves the business and he's here to turn the screws. And then he's asked if he's going to wrestle, and he said he's not going to say yes, but he's still got a lot left in the tank. This brought out Vicky Guerrero, who came out screaming about, excuse me. And then she introduced Andrade El Idolo, in which the crowd went mild. There was no real reaction for him at all. It took for, because I think maybe it was because I didn't really understand what Vicky was saying. Because she was sailing in her shrill shriek voice instead of talking normally. She was in her character voice. And when I heard Excalibur say it, I was like, oh, okay. Now, even when he came out of the tunnel, there was still very little reaction to Andrade. Even when he came out of the tunnel, even as he stood in the ring, there were some AEW chants, which we all know that's not exactly a good thing. You're not chanting for the performer, you're chanting for the company. I don't know if I ever talked about this before. We'll talk about it right after this. I talk about this, though. So, Andrade says he used to call himself the face of the Latinos, but now he's going to call himself the face of All Elite Wrestling. So that's all he really had to say. He showed off a little bit. He looked like $1 million, and then he strolled out there and he walked away, and that was it. And all of a sudden, everybody's talking about how much of a star he is, and I was like, oh, okay. But to double back to what I was talking about, one of the things I forget who I heard this from. I'm not sure if it was Raven. I'm not sure if it was Al Snow. I'm not sure who said it, but it made a lot of sense to me when they said it. They said when you're chanting for the company and not the wrestler, then you know that there's a problem. When he says when you look at every company except WWE, which actually tries to put their brand first, people always chant for the performer. Let's go, Cena sucks, whatever, It's never WWE, WWE. That doesn't even make sense. But when you literally everything else except WCW, you never get the WCW, WCW chant, right? But TNA, you get the TNA, TNA, ECW. Now you're doing it in AEW, and I think even ROH had that. People were doing ROH chant. There's something about chanting for the promotion that's weird, and it doesn't work. It doesn't get the characters and the personalities that you're supposed to get over. It's getting the company over. And then what happens when it makes everybody seem unimportant. And to that point, when they continuously stack these surprises, I've talked to, at length about this. And I know this is just an anomaly, right? Some people just don't want to admit that Andrade didn't get much of a reaction. It is not because nobody knows who he is. It's not because the big surprise, didn't work. He'll get a better reaction next time. It's just that AEW has started to stack these surprises where there's just continuously, like 2-3 times a month, there's a surprise entrance. And then I actually started seeing people say like, wow, the roster is starting to get stacked. The roster is starting to get full, and like, who is he going to wrestle? And of course he got all the quote unquote dream matches with people that he's, just good matches that he could have. Not that, characters or anything like that, angles that he could work. Just, he could have good matches with everybody. Like, he could have had a good match with Drew Gulak, but nobody gives a fuck. Like, it's really hard to have conversations, adult conversations with these people. But ultimately, Andrade is a great get for AEW, but it's not a surprise because he challenged Kenny Omega in AAA 2 months ago. Well, it was probably about a month ago. It was quite a while ago, So we already knew that there was a chance that he could jump ship to AEW, so it wasn't really that big of a surprise. Second, they continuously bringing in new talent, either guys that they're recruiting themselves personally, like guys that worked in the main event of this show. Even though, he was kind of a performance center guy, same thing, but whatever. But, you have now a roster full of talent. Now you're going to begin with the question is who you're going to push and when. Like, when on this same show, you had Christian, who was the big sign last month, and he's already doing nothing tag team matches 6 weeks later. What about Matt Hardy, who was the big sign last year? He's been mostly forgotten and hasn't really progressed or done anything. You also had Miro, who was the big sign last year, who's finally starting to bloom into something special. Lance Archer was a big sign last year. What have we gotten out of him? When you look at some of their grand signings that these guys who are going to change the game, almost none of them have done so. Pac was one of them. He hasn't changed anything. Nothing has really stuck. Nothing has really shifted the momentum like AEW really wants it to. And I think we need to stop putting that kind of pressure on these guys because they're just wrestlers, man. Like we want to treat everybody like they're a movie star. Like these guys are just wrestlers. And that's kind of how Vince sees them. That's why he fires these guys. Like he got rid of Andrade because he's just a fucking wrestler. No different than Angel Garza or any other the fucking Hispanic wrestlers. And it's unfortunate that, some people see him that way, but until he proves that he is something more than just another fucking Mexican wrestler, then that's what the fuck he is. He's no different than every other Mexican wrestler that's on the roster. You have to prove yourself different. And of course I'm going to say, well, he got the opportunity now. Show and prove. Every time WWE fires somebody, that's pretty much the position that they put these guys in. It's like everybody's like, oh, we should have done so much more with Brian Myers. And it's like, okay, well, are you even watching him in Impact now? No. So that's something to consider when we talk about all of these guys who've been released lately. People swear like, oh my God, these guys are going to be such great gets for AEW. And it's like, nobody considers whether you should even have a roster so stacked, let alone, because that's why I say everybody keeps saying with WWE, like your roster is too stacked, you got too many people. And that's not a lie. But now AEW has been in business for not even a fraction of the time WWE has, and they have 3 running shows and about as many people on the roster. Something's going to give. Something's going to give. And I think it's going to end up being the guys on the downward spot. And it was the same thing with WCW. Vince couldn't hold on to, that at that point, it was he didn't want to pay Nash, he didn't want to pay Hall. He released them. They went to WCW, became a big deal, but then it ended up affecting all of the people who were working in that mid-card range, the Benoits and the Guerreros and the Jerichos and those guys. It started to affect them because Hall and Nash were bigger stars coming in, eating up all the TV time. And sure, these guys might have been getting paid well, but they weren't going anywhere. There was no growth potential. It's similar why, Andrade and these kind of guys are leaving WWE because there was no growth potential. So now they're going to go from being small fish in a big pond to being big fish in a small pond. So then what about all the other guys who were in AEW from the beginning but can't find their footing? Because, hey, you signed us and we may be in the training facilities or whatever, but we can't get main events. Or if we can get a main event, we just lose and then go back to doing nothing. It's eventually it's gonna fall apart. So they need to really consider. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't sign anybody else. They should sign as many of these guys as they can get. While their names and faces, or while their faces at least, are still in the public consciousness. So if you can get Aleister Black, you should get them. If you can get the Iconics, you should get them. If you can get Lana, you should get her. There's no reason why you shouldn't. There's a lot of people that are on AEW's roster that WWE probably wouldn't even want, but they could do something for Impact or do something for another promotion, Ring of Honor or something like that. But AEW needs to help themselves and squeeze as much notoriety out of those names and those faces that they can get. I'm not saying sign everybody. I'm saying make good choices, make good decisions. Andrade was a good decision. He's a good choice. They already got a relationship with AAA and New Japan, which is probably what he want to do. It makes sense for him to sign with All Elite Wrestling so he could continue to wrestle in AAA and continue to wrestle in New Japan if he wanted to, So that's cool, But we are in the situation where it's becoming WCW 2.0 already, like a year and a half in. Well, probably about 2 years in now. AEW is just being WCW. If WWE releases them, they fire them, they bringing them in and giving them a push, And it's going to get to the point where you're going to have a cool young guy who's going to be in there with a WWE retread, and it's going to be like, they're going to have a Jim Duggan, Steve Austin situation eventually. WWE has had a couple of those, with the Goldberg and Bray Wyatt thing, or the Goldberg and Kevin Owens thing, where, you have this young guy and you just feed him to this old dude for no reason. But it's going to end up happening in AEW too. It's going to have to happen, It's inevitable. Because you if you put guys in there, you're not going to lose. So, enough about that. We'll talk more about that in the comment section below if you're interested. All right, so that was the most interesting thing on the show, if we're being honest. Andrade was, his appearance. I was floored by the lack of reaction. I'm not ever going to forget. He almost got a Tito Ortiz-like reaction. And I'm sure people are going to say, oh, it was better in the building. It's like, I'm watching TV, and I didn't hear much of anything. See, the next match was Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson versus Anthony Ogogo and QT Marshall. Anthony Ogogo knocks out Cody Rhodes so QT can get the pin. So QT pins Cody, not Anthony Ogogo. And post-match, QT is, bragging about how nobody ever believed in him, but he told them that he was better than Cody and all that kind of stuff. It made no sense for Anthony to knock out Cody for QT to get the pin. You should really put the pin on the upstart. I mean, if Cody is going to... I believe Lee Johnson was in this match to take the pin. That's what I believed. I believe QT was in this match to take the pin. That seems like to make the most sense. If Cody was the one that was going to get pinned, he should have been pinned by Anthony Ogogo. And yes, that matters. Right? But I guess we're going back to QT and Cody. I guess Anthony's just gonna be like, oh hey, it was his knockout punch. But I'm just kind of like, why couldn't we put the young guy over again? If you're gonna do the job anyway, do the job to the young guy. Like, it's a tag team match, Cody. Who gives a fuck? All right, so we got an Inner Circle promo where basically they spent 20 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever just talking about how it's not over and how, Sammy Guevara was real cringe here. I like that he was the hero of the Stadium Stampede. I actually did like that. That made a lot of sense. It was pretty important to give him a big main event win, but I think people have no idea what it means when you put like young guys over. Like, that's a good thing, sure, but you can't just do these things again. I think I said it about Double or Nothing. You have to make sure that they're ready, and instead of just doing things because it's like, get the young guy over, so that's what we're going to do. It's like, and I even saw some people talking about Sammy is too big to be in the Inner Circle. I'm like, what? Did you not see this promo tonight? He was horrible. His promo was terrible. Like, I don't, no. See, people will be far more likely to tell the truth if this was Raw. And I don't want to be like, oh, well, it's AEW versus WWE stuff. I'm just saying that people don't have a problem saying when shit sucks on Raw or SmackDown. They do have a problem when shit sucks on AEW and then trying to find other ways around it. That's when they get like the CNN spin. It becomes, oh yeah, Anthony Ogogo knocked out Cody. How great. It's like he didn't pin Cody. QT Marshall did. Oh, but it was Anthony Ogogo knocked out Cody. Sammy cuts a really bad promo, but because it's AEW, it's all right. We'll forgive it, because it was AEW. Santana was good as usual, and he basically says he's not done with FTR, which makes sense because they power drive them off of the stadium or whatever through the tables. It didn't seem to matter since they won anyway, but they're not done. Jericho says he's not done with MJF. He's still got to settle the score. He's having nightmares. He's having nightmares. Ooh. They say he's Pinoy. Anyway, Jericho says he's not done. And then the biggest news to come out of this is that Jake Hager wants to fight Wardlow in an MMA cage fight. A match that he's never lost. And I said, okay, all right, that's interesting at least, See, that's the one positive thing about AEW is they're not concerned with doing stupid shit on TV and just seeing if it works. They like, hey, we got 2 hours to fill. Let's just throw Wardlow and Hager in a cage match. If it sucks, oh well, just do it. Well, on Raw, they'd rather have 100 fucking rematches than actually take a chance and do something stupid, I would rather, I'm not going to say I would rather have zombies, but I would rather have you take a chance on a match that might not get over versus seeing something, even if it will get over 100 times, So I'm going to give AEW some credit. You can't say I'm a hater. I give them some credit. They're willing to, it's not good for Wardlow because he's not going to win, right? So if Wardlow was at one point a big prospect for them too. I guess they gave up on that. There was also a point in time when Wardlow was about to turn babyface. Do you remember that? They dropped a lot of storylines very quietly, didn't they? Another storyline they dropped was the private party storyline. They dropped that too, but we'll get to that in a second. Kenny Omega and Don Callis were in the production room doing something to the screens. I don't know. Then Don Callis was talking about this man, a conspiracy against Kenny Omega to take the world title from him, which of course didn't matter because he won anyway. And then they asked him about Jungle Boy. And then Kenny Omega says that, how many of those 20 guys that Jungle Boy threw over the top rope, how many of those guys was in the top 5? And I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. That's a pretty put him on the spot question. I have no idea. But then he starts talking about there's a difference between a jungle boy and a jungle man. And a jungle man and a jungle champion. I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, this dude is terrible. Again, I could only imagine if the logo on the screen was different. How people would tell the fucking truth about Kenny Omega and his stark lack of fucking charisma and personality. This stuff is bad. And then him and Don Callis sing the music. Jungle Boy's music. The part that Tony Khan wants the crowd to sing. They sing that part, and they sing for about 15 seconds. And then Jungle Boy's music starts to play. And so the crowd can sing it as Jungle Boy is about to come out and wrestle. Now, again, couldn't imagine if they'd have did that shit on Raw. They'd be like, oh, are you trying to force people to be cool? It's like, it's the same shit here. And they did it again later with Britt Baker. They just kept having her say DMD, DMD. Just keep saying it. Eventually the sheep will catch on. You know, it's an old Vince McMahon trick, which probably means it's probably Jericho's idea. It's an old Vince McMahon trick. You know, you have to be an idiot, but at the same time, it's not organic because you're coaching the crowd into doing it. You know, but we were told that it was a cult when you coach the crowd into doing things. It's a cult. You tell the crowd what to do. It's a cult. But they can tell the crowd what to do. And it's perfectly fine. They're over. That makes no sense. Anyway, Jungle Boy and Christian Cage defeated Private Party. Now, what happened to Private Party storyline with Matt Hardy? They had like this really... remember they had the storyline with Matt Hardy when it began at first? Where they were, you know, a little reluctant to get involved with Matt Hardy. And then they were all about it because they were doing all that stuff in Impact. And then it kind of vanished. I think after Matt lost to Adam Page, they didn't have anything for him. So Private Party disappeared too. And now they're just his lackeys. You know, they're not guys who make money for him anymore. You know, like Big Money Matt was basically like a pimp who was putting these guys out there, you know, trying to put them in big opportunities, get them big spots so that they can get title matches so that he can make more money. But that seems to have all just fallen apart, and we're not trying to do that anymore. Now they're just lackeys to Matt Hardy. They very quietly dropped that storyline. Very, very quietly. But whatever. Anyway, Christian Cage, of course, after Jungle Boy tapped out Mark Quinn with the snare trap, he, of course, shook his hand again, you know, rubbed his head, put Jungle Boy over. Then Matt Hardy attacked Christian and hit him with the Twist of Fate on the ramp. And going back to Matt Hardy and Christian, I guess you have to have something for both of them to do. So this is a natural thing because this is a 20-year thing that they've had here. This is kind of natural. The problem is Christian came to AEW to do more than this. You know, like he's still very new. Matt Hardy was a guy you just jobbed out to Adam Page, and he hasn't done anything major since. This is not a lateral move. You know, this is another step down. You know, Christian being put in that battle royal was bad enough, but now he's about to feud with Matt Hardy, who is a non-entity in AEW. That's not good. They could at least have Christian wrestling Miro. You know, that would be better. You know, Miro's got a little bit more steam to him. But whatever. I'm not Booker of the Year. Shit. I'm just a guy talking on the internet. So Taz says that Adam Page got lucky. And that now him and Cage are 1-1. And that, you know, now he needs to pick himself a tag team partner, any member of the Dark Order, versus Powerhouse Hobbs and Brian Cage. And obviously he's probably going to, well, I don't know. I don't think John Silver is. I think he's still hurt. So it'll probably be 10. He'll probably pick that. I think his name is Preston Vance. That's a hell of a name for a grown man. He sounds like he should be like a cartoon supervillain. You know, like a Bond villain or some shit. But Team Taz is still together. I don't know why. I'm guessing this is going to be the last stand. After they lose this match, Cage and Hobbs are going to get into it, and we're going to actually be able to tell the fall apart from there. That's just me being hopeful. So the next segment was Darby Allin and Sting. Sting basically put over Double or Nothing, saying that it stands up with all the great things he's ever done. I mean, he kind of has to say that, you know. Oh, I forgot. I should back up. Well, I'll talk about it at the end. It's not that important. But Sting talked about how Double or Nothing stacks up to everything he's ever done in his career. You know, wrestling Ric Flair and, you know, main event Starrcade against Hulk Hogan. This was just as good. You know, all the stuff he did in TNA. This is just as good. You know, I'm guessing it. I guess it was a really big confidence booster for him. You know, he's 60 some odd years old. He's still able to go out there and go without hurting himself or hurting anybody else. And the match was fairly successful. And then Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky showed up, and Scorpio Sky made some bad jokes about Sting smelling good. And then said that him and Ethan Page talked about Darby. And they basically said that, oh, yeah, Darby is being carried by Sting. And, you know, pick anybody other than Sting to be your tag team partner, and let's see how it goes. And I don't know if you want to be like, we couldn't beat the 60-year-old guy, but we can kick your ass. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know if we would go that route. But, okay. You know, I was hoping this feud would be over or that we would move on to something else. But, okay. You know, I don't care about Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, man. I don't give a shit. I can't find a fuck to give about them. I just can't. Then we had a Britt Baker title celebration where there were a bunch of whoppers in the ring. So then there was a bunch of job guys out there, and there was some balloons. There was Tony Schiavone. And Britt Baker talked about she was going to give away burger coupons. Now, this is where I was going to talk about, it was really cool earlier, and I actually enjoyed that. I thought that was one of the best things on the show, when Inner Circle gave away t-shirts. And they said everybody has a t-shirt under their seat. And people was bending over getting t-shirts like, yeah, I thought that was fucking cool. I just did a video talking about people need to interact more with the live crowd. That made a lot of people who weren't there feel like, damn, maybe when I go to this show, I'll get a free t-shirt. You know, that was cool. And then they kind of doubled back to it with Britt Baker, and she talked about there was burger coupons under their seats. And then, you know, because Jericho had just gave away shirts, they should have known that there was nothing else under the seat, right? They would have already known that, right? But they looked anyway. And then she laughed and said that she got all the burger coupons because she did all the work. And that nobody else deserves anything except for the two people who stood by her the whole time. Then she starts talking about how DMD is plastered everywhere. DMD is what you see on TV, and you can't take your eyes off me. It was very odd because I wasn't even looking at her when this was on. I was literally listening. But she talked about how when she's on TV and everybody she got their full attention and all that kind of stuff, which is, you know, provably not true because I was not paying attention when she said this. And then I came back into the room just in time to see Nyla Rose start flinging cheeseburgers and popping balloons. And Nyla Rose did get booed for this, so apparently Nyla Rose is the heel here, and Britt Baker is now the babyface. This was lame, but it was okay because Britt Baker is coming into her own as a character, and she can carry a segment like this by herself. I think that giving her Nyla Rose as an opponent was a bad idea. That's like when you give somebody Kane. Like, there was for a long time in WWE, you knew that they didn't really believe in you when they gave you the title and then your first opponent was Kane. You know, because it was kind of like, Kane is a real solid jobber to the stars guy who has no chance at all of winning, right? He's just a placeholder guy. And it was a shame that it became that way. But that's really what it became. You know, when Benoit first had his first real feud after he won the title, his first real feud was with Kane, right? And it was just kind of like, we don't know what else to do. Give him Kane, you know. We don't know what else to do. Daniel Bryan, Kane, I guess. You know, now it's the same thing here where it's like, Well, Britt Baker, she got the crown now, and instead of giving her somebody she could actually have entertaining angles and stuff with, we'll just give her Nyla Rose. I mean, why not? I mean, it is what it is, right? You know, they have history, right? It's like you couldn't put Chris Statlander right here. You know, they don't have to have a match immediately. You couldn't put what's that girl name? The poor baby, the martial arts baby. What's her name? God damn. She's thin as a rail too. What the fuck? Tainara Conti. Yeah, why they couldn't put her right here? You know, like they could have put some a baby face that can show some fire and still have good matches, but somebody who can be elevated by working with Britt Baker, and not somebody who's gonna, if we be quite honest, gonna drag Britt Baker down, because Nyla Rose is not good, and I'm not gonna watch these matches anyway, so whatever. The Bunny versus Red Velvet. Red Velvet. As cute as she is, she almost killed herself on a suicide dive. It was a very Sasha Banks-like suicide dive where she ate the goddamn ground with a knife and fork and almost broke her neck. But hey, I mean, it is what it is. Red Velvet wins the match. Nobody cares. Then we get a promo that John Silver was supposed to get a TNT Championship match for his birthday, because today is his birthday, or it was. But because he's still injured, he can't cash it in, so he's going to gift it to Evil Uno, his buddy. And Evil Uno was like, yeah, we're going to win the TNT title. Cool. So then we go over to Miro, and this was probably my favorite segment on the show, outside of the giveaway. And, so this was very cool. Miro says, shout out to God for giving me my power. And shout out to my wife for being hot. So he started out, he's learned how, he wants to be funny, right? He wants to be funny, he wants to be humorous, but now he's found a way to continue being menacing while also being entertaining and not being goofy. Then he talks about, I come to the show to find out Evil Uno is challenging me for my TNT title. But that makes no sense because I'm bigger, faster, stronger, and undefeated. He says that he's emotional, but he's too emotional. And his emotions are going to get him hurt. He said, you don't come after me if you think you can win. You come after me if you know you can survive. And I was like, okay, I love this. This was really good. This was good. It was witty. When he talked about, God giving him his power, his wife for being hot. It was also witty that, you don't come after me if you only think you can win, And basically, like, I'm better than, it doesn't make any sense for him to challenge me. I'm better than him in every possible way, and I'm undefeated. Like, I'm going to hurt this guy. Like, and then also by noting that the Dark Order has this emotional attachment to the TNT title because it was Brody Lee's title, it makes 100% sense. So I really like that. What I did not like was the main event. Dustin Rhodes versus Nick Comoroto. Nick Comoroto looks great. Looks like $1 million. Really does. He reminds me a lot of the Berserker, the Berserker. Except for he's a lot more muscular than the Berserker. I didn't know he was in the Performance Center until somebody posted the picture, and they were kind of joking about, AEW signing WWE guys, and Nick Comoroto was one of them. And I was like, I didn't never seen the guy in NXT before, so I don't know. But apparently he was one of those guys that got cut a long time ago, and he's been training with the Nightmare Family or whatever the hell. So he looks good, but putting him in the main event of a show with absolutely no build up, not even a promo from him. Not even a promo from somebody with him standing behind them snarling. Like, I mean, you had so much time on this show to do it. And this is the one positive thing. If I got to say something positive about Vince Russo, or even about WWE booking, because WWE booking is the shits, they do a good job of trying to build up to the main event. And not just saying, this is the main event, and then you don't touch the main event at all until the end. They usually have, the guys who are going to be in the main event cut promos. At least a short promo saying, I'm going to beat this guy. Or somebody saying, I'm going to beat this guy. This is my guy. Look how big and ugly and tough he is. He's going to beat that guy. Nick Comoroto didn't get any of that. It was just Nick Comoroto versus Dustin Rhodes in a bull rope match. oh, it's Dustin Rhodes' favorite match. I'm just kind of like, okay. And then the match was just like, I'm not invested at all in this because while I know it's another one of the Nightmare versus the Factory feuds, Dustin didn't talk about this match or why it's important or why he feels like he needs to win this match. And Nick Comoroto, I don't think I've ever even heard him talk. There's nothing there. It's just two guys in the main event for 15 minutes. No. And I don't care about the blood. It's not enough. There's not enough intrigue there for this to be a main event. Dustin won anyway, which was a big mistake. Why not put over the young guy? And I know I just said you just can't put over young guys and, they're not ready. But to me, Comoroto shouldn't even been in this match. This should have been QT versus Dustin, Or who else is ready? I think everybody else, I think everybody except QT is a student. So it should have been QT versus Dustin. And so Dustin can win. Why he would beat Nick Comoroto, I have no idea. And why it would be the main event, I have no idea. But ultimately, this show was not good. It was all about three things. They built the entire show to talk about Andrade, which was a good thing. The Inner Circle giving away T-shirts was good. Britt Baker's promo was good. The segment sucked, but at least she's comfortable in what she's doing. And Miro's promo was good. I didn't like any of these matches on the show. It was hard to get into a lot of it because, again, it was just guys going out there doing everything that they know how to do. And no emotional attachment to anything. This was, not the worst. Is it the worst episode of Dynamite ever? I don't know. I stopped caring about whether Dynamite is good or not after I learned that their booking strategy, which is basically bring out the surprises and have the Young Bucks do 100 Hurricanranas and pile drivers. That's it. I don't know. You can run the Young Bucks over with the Killdozer and they still kick out at 2. I can't believe people really gave John Cena shit about being Superman, but it's 100% cool with the Young Bucks who are 110 pounds apiece getting thrown from 40-story buildings and getting kicking out at 2. That's ridiculous. But hey, we're a different breed of fan out here now. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, man. Tell me what you think about this show. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel if you can. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Be blessed.